chosen one. This darkness was designed to break you, and it failed. This message isn't for everyone, it's for you. The one who was thrown into a pit with no ladder, buried under silence, betrayal, and invisible pain. It's for the one who walked through fire and came out not even smelling of smoke. The darkness had one job: to break you. And yet, here you are, not broken, still standing, still breathing, still becoming. That's why this message exists, because you are proof that divine purpose overrides destructive plans. Every time you should have fallen and didn't, you rewrote destiny. Before we dive into the truth of this story, take a moment to breathe. You didn't find this message by accident. It's magnetically drawn to your spirit. We ask you to stay with us until the end of this video, because something inside you is going to be confirmed, something powerful, something true. And while you're here, send your warmest wishes into the comments and write the number 99 to set this universe ablaze with energy. This is more than a video. This is a chapter of alignment, where wishes meet action and intention meets timing. The darkness was not just an event. It was engineered. It was strategic. It targeted you at your most tender point. It knew where your hope flickered the weakest, and it struck. It showed up in silence when you needed answers. It arrived as loss when you needed security. It came dressed as delays, rejections, abandonment, and unseen tears. It whispered that you were alone and shouted that you had failed. But every time it said, "Stay down," something deeper in you said, "Not yet." That resistance was not weakness. It was the ember of a warrior spirit, born to rise. You didn't just survive, you transformed. The old you was never meant to last beyond that season. That version of you, attached to validation, waiting for permission, clinging to what left, is gone. The darkness initiated your awakening. It failed at destroying you because it underestimated the roots you had. The storm didn't know how deeply you were planted, and it certainly didn't expect you to bloom in winter. Every time you were overlooked, you were being hidden for a higher reason. Your glow was being preserved. The stage wasn't ready. The timing wasn't right. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. That's the part no one told you. Preparation often looks like isolation. It feels like rejection. But it's none of those things. It's a divine buffer that shields your rising from premature exposure. Now look at you. Quiet strength, silent power, refined through things others couldn't handle. Your mind, once tormented, now sharp. Your heart, once shattered, now open. Your faith, once flickering, now blazing. You didn't need them to understand you. You needed time to understand yourself. And through it all, the darkness trained you, not to fear, but to see in the unseen. You started to trust your instincts, to feel what's real before it's revealed, to sense what's about to shift even when everything looks still. This isn't just your comeback. This is your elevation, and it won't require noise. It won't need announcement. It will be visible in the way your peace remains intact while others lose theirs. Your glow will tell the story. Your silence will echo louder than speeches. The people who doubted you will feel it before they hear it. That's how elevation works. It whispers in shadows before it commands in light. You are not who you used to be. You've seen too much, lost too much, rebuilt too much. You can't shrink for people who only knew your former version. You've earned the right to expand, even if they don't get it, even if they leave, even if it scares you. That fear, that's the leftover shadow trying to convince you you're not ready. But you are, more than ready. And that readiness doesn't mean perfect. It means committed. It means showing up with what you have and trusting that what you need will meet you when it's time. There are some things about you that no one can steal: your essence, your truth, your light. Those things aren't situational. They aren't seasonal. They're eternal. No matter how many storms rage outside, that inner flame remains. That's what the darkness didn't see coming. It saw the surface. It didn't know your soul. And now that you've survived the pit, the shadows can't touch you the same way. You've become immune to what used to shake you. That's power. People may still try to define you by your past. Let them. They're not current enough to understand your new frequency. You don't need to defend who you've become. You just need to walk in it. Because every step forward now is a declaration that darkness has lost its grip. Every move you make now reverberates through the energy field that once tried to trap you. And that's how you shift timelines, not just for you, but for everyone connected to you. This journey hasn't been fair, but it's been sacred. It's forced you to confront wounds, patterns, and beliefs that were never yours. You've had to strip yourself of survival mechanisms to discover what real living feels like. That's painful. That's lonely. But it's also liberating. Now you know what peace really is. Not the absence of chaos, but the ability to remain unmoved by it. That's rare. That's divine. And you didn't find that by staying in the light. You found it by walking through shadows, not running from them. By facing the void. By learning to be still when everything inside you screamed to escape. You passed the test not by escaping the fire, but by enduring it without letting it extinguish your essence. That's strength. That's resilience. That's divine design. This is only the beginning. Your future no longer resembles your past. You're not circling old lessons anymore. You're stepping into new ground. And with each step, more clarity will come. More alignment. More revelation. You don't need to force it. You just need to trust it. The universe already knows where you're headed. And the more you align with who you've become, the less resistance you'll face, because you'll stop trying to be understood by those who only knew your shadows. And that's your power now. Choosing your frequency, choosing your truth, walking in your assignment even when it doesn't come with applause. You're no longer chasing validation. You're creating realities. And that is what this darkness was trying to stop you from realizing. But it failed. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your glow-up, for your peace, for your silence, for your decisions. They weren't in the wilderness with you. They didn't hear the cries behind closed doors. They weren't there when your soul begged for clarity while your world crumbled in silence. They weren't present when you had to rebuild your self-worth piece by piece with no blueprint. So no, you don't owe them an explanation. You owe yourself the right to live free, healed, and aligned. You carry memories of moments you can't put into words. That's why you've changed. You've tasted spiritual exhaustion. You've felt the void. You've held your breath while praying for breakthrough. And even when it didn't come, when you thought it would, you didn't give up. That kind of perseverance rewrites timelines. That kind of faith bends energy around you. You're not just walking forward, you're dragging miracles in your wake. That darkness was a tunnel, not a tomb. It was a transition, not a destination. The fact that you're here means you didn't die there. Not spiritually, not emotionally, not mentally. You might have lost pieces of yourself, but you didn't lose your light. And now, the world is about to see what endurance looks like when it's wrapped in divine timing. There were days when even your own reflection didn't look familiar. You felt foreign to yourself, like the person in the mirror was a ghost of who you used to be. But slowly, painfully, beautifully, you began to reclaim your identity. Not the one given to you by titles, relationships, or appearances, but the one etched into your spirit before the world told you who you were supposed to be. That version of you is rising now. This version isn't soft in the way the world defines it. It's soft like water, flexible, persistent, uncontainable. It carves through rock without violence. It adapts to every environment, yet always finds its own flow. You've become that, not easily shaken, not desperate for validation, rooted in truth, and dangerous to anything that thrives in manipulation. You now sense what doesn't belong in your energy field. You no longer tolerate what depletes you. Your body reacts to fake smiles and forced conversations. Your soul knows when something's off before words are even spoken. That's not paranoia. That's discernment. It was forged in the fires of your suffering, and now it's your protection. Because of what you've walked through, you've unlocked vision. Not the kind that looks outward for direction, but the kind that knows inwardly which step is next. You see patterns before they repeat. You feel intentions before they manifest. You can no longer be lied to the same way, manipulated the same way, distracted the same way. Your frequency has evolved beyond deception. And that's intimidating to some people, because when you stop reacting, they lose control. When you don't shrink, they lose power. When you rise, they're forced to confront the places within themselves they've kept buried. That's why some people suddenly disappeared when you started healing. Your wholeness triggered the pain they still avoid. Don't chase them, bless them, and continue. You've become a mirror to everyone around you. Some will see their light, some will only see their wounds, but your job is not to fix what they refuse to face. Your job is to continue becoming, continue expanding, continue living a life that screams, "I survived, and now I thrive." That's your testimony. That's your purpose. That's your gift. Every tear you cried in silence became a seed. And what's blooming now is not just for you. It's for every version of you that thought they'd never see the light again. You're carrying generations of untold healing. You're the interruption to generational patterns that wanted to pass through you but couldn't. You were chosen to stop the cycle. And you did. They tried to break you with pressure, but didn't realize pressure creates diamonds. They tried to drown you in uncertainty, not knowing you were learning how to breathe underwater. They tried to isolate you, thinking it would weaken you. But in that stillness, you found the divine. You found alignment. You found power. Now, that power follows you. Not loudly, but undeniably. It shows up in your peace, in your boundaries, in your capacity to walk away from things that once held you hostage. It lives in your smile, in your presence, in your refusal to settle. You are no longer desperate to be understood. You're committed to being authentic. Your energy doesn't chase, it attracts. Your frequency doesn't beg, it commands. And you're no longer afraid of starting over because you've already mastered the art of rebuilding. You're a walking rebirth. You've resurrected from situations that were supposed to bury you. What's next will only be beautiful because you now refuse anything less. There's something different about you now, not just to those who know you, but to the universe itself. You've become magnetic, not by force, but by flow. The things that align with your spirit are now being drawn to you effortlessly, because you've cleared space, because you've said no to what wasn't meant, because you finally said yes to yourself. And even if you're still waiting, still wondering, still transitioning, know this: nothing was wasted. No delay, no betrayal, no season of silence. It all served a purpose. It all carried you to this exact frequency. And when your eyes open fully, you'll realize that the pain was never permanent. It was a passage. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are exactly where you're meant to be, to receive what's coming next. And what's coming will make you understand why the darkness had to be so intense, because the light was always going to be that much greater. The bigger the shadow, the brighter the source. You are now approaching that source. Stay rooted, stay open, stay aligned. The shift is not coming. It's already here. You felt it, didn't you? The moment everything changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a thunderclap. It was subtle, almost invisible, but something inside you shifted. It was the day you no longer waited to be saved. The day you realized you were the one you were waiting for. That single moment, that internal decision, became the beginning of a completely new frequency. You stepped into a realm where healing became your birthright and peace became your baseline. That shift wasn't accidental. It was sacred. It came after nights when you had nothing but your breath and your will to live. It came after breakdowns that cracked you open wide enough for light to seep through. You didn't just wake up one day strong. You were built in the silence, forged in confusion, designed in dimensions the world never saw. And the people who see you now, they're witnessing the afterglow of a battle that was never public. You walked through emotional fire, barefoot and alone. You fought thoughts that tried to convince you your best days were gone. You survived spiritual warfare that didn't show up in the physical, but shook your soul to its core. And now, here you are, stillness in your bones, clarity in your eyes, a calm that unnerves those who only knew your storm. Do you realize how rare that is? To carry pain without projecting it, to move in silence without seeking validation, to rise from ruins without bitterness, to rebuild yourself from memory, from spirit, from whispers of who you used to be. That's divine work. That's sacred. That's why it failed. The darkness, the plan, the sabotage. It underestimated the part of you that doesn't quit. It couldn't account for the infinite energy coded into your DNA, the sacred defiance, the celestial fire, the refusal to fold when folding would have been easier. You're a mystery to those who only measure worth by worldly standards. You're not rich in what they expect, but you're wealthy in soul, in strength, in light. And that kind of currency can't be copied. It can't be bought. It can't be taken. That is what makes you chosen. Not the ease, but the endurance. Not the applause, but the authenticity. You remained true to your essence even when everything around you told you to give up. And now, because of that, things are shifting behind the scenes. Doors that refuse to open are trembling at your energy. People who once ignored you are feeling your rise in their spirit. Paths are clearing, not because you forced them, but because you've become a match for what is divinely yours. You're not the underdog anymore. You're the hidden one, the planted one, the warrior turned creator, the one who doesn't just manifest from ego, but from alignment. You've become a channel for higher realms. And now the blessings that had no address are finding you, because you finally stepped into your true name. You've released the past. You no longer carry the weight of people who were never meant to go with you. You've stopped explaining yourself to minds that only want to argue, not understand. You've surrendered the urge to perform, to prove, to earn what was always already yours. This new version of you isn't for everyone, and that's okay. You weren't made for the crowd. You were made for the call. You were designed for sacred impact. And it's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not always seen, but it is always felt. When you enter rooms now, the atmosphere changes. not because of ego, but because your energy has matured. Your spirit is no longer begging to be chosen. It already knows it is. And that changes everything. That removes desperation and replaces it with knowing. That ends striving and replaces it with flow. That ends proving and replaces it with presence. And that presence is enough. More than enough. This is why they tried to break you. This is why life threw curveballs at your heart. This is why the delays came. This is why people left. It was never punishment, it was purification. The old version of you had to dissolve for this one to rise. The one who doesn't chase, the one who doesn't doubt, the one who knows, the one who embodies. You are no longer the same, and that is your freedom. There's a glow about you now, a sacred shine, a golden frequency that cannot be dimmed, not by rejection, not by fear, not by delay. You carry the quiet confidence of someone who has seen their own soul and refused to abandon it. You carry the energy of someone who has stood in the dark and whispered, "I will not die here." And you didn't. You didn't die in the confusion. You didn't die in the waiting. You didn't die in the heartbreak. You were reborn in it. The next time you look in the mirror, see it. Not just your face. See the power behind your eyes. See the peace that was paid for in silence. See the wisdom that was won in war. And walk with it. Every step forward now is sacred. Every decision now is powerful. Every word you speak now holds weight. You are not just a survivor. You are a carrier of light. You are now walking into rooms that once rejected you. And you're not seeking revenge. You're bringing revelation. You're no longer explaining your value. You're radiating it. You're no longer dimming your gifts. You're anchoring in them. You're no longer scared of losing people. You're excited to meet the ones who match your frequency. And you don't need to rush. You don't need to push. You don't need to hustle to catch up. You are aligned. You are chosen. And that is enough. The universe has already sent the signal. The doors are responding. The people are aligning. The visions are materializing. The shift is undeniable. And it all began when the darkness tried to break you and failed. You no longer move like you're unsure of your worth. That doubt, that hesitation, that need for outside approval, those days are over. You walk now with a grounded power, not because life has been easy, but because you've finally seen what you're made of. And what you're made of cannot be bought, broken, or borrowed. You're made of decisions no one saw you make. You're made of moments that nearly crushed you, but taught you how to breathe under pressure. You're made of silence that sharpened your clarity. You are built different, not because you said it, but because you lived it. The places you once tiptoed into, you now stride into. The energy you used to shrink for, you now surpass. You're no longer asking for a seat at the table. You are the table. And your presence alone flips the dynamic. You don't beg anymore. You align. You don't force anymore. You attract. You don't chase anymore. You command. That's not ego. That's alignment. That's authority earned in shadows. That's wisdom sculpted by waiting. You are not returning to who you used to be. That version is gone. The one who needed everyone to like them. The one who broke themselves into smaller pieces to be accepted. The one who tolerated what didn't feel right just to keep the peace. That one no longer exists, and thank God. Because now you know, peace isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about protecting your energy. The new you has boundaries, not walls. Standards, not apologies. Clarity, not confusion. You now choose presence over performance, purpose over popularity, and self-respect over pleasing. That is power. Not loud power, but grounded, unshakable power. The kind that whispers, "I know who I am," and lets the world adjust. Let them misunderstand you. Let them misjudge you. Let them cling to outdated versions of you. You owe no one an explanation for who you've become. You didn't do all this inner work to remain digestible. To those who never tried to understand your depth, you're not for everyone, and you were never meant to be. Because this version of you, it's not watered down, it's not dimmed, it's not performative, it's real, it's sacred, it's intentional. You speak slower because you think deeper. You move differently because you see differently. You take your time because you know your value doesn't diminish with delay, it deepens. You are being prepared for things bigger than what you've imagined. That's why the resistance was heavy. That's why the spiritual warfare was relentless. That's why people left, things crumbled, and you were left questioning if any of it would make sense. But now you know, it wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to upgrade you. Everything you lost was never a loss. It was space being cleared for alignment. Every betrayal was redirection. Every delay was divine timing. And every unanswered prayer was protection you couldn't yet see. You weren't being punished. You were being preserved. You were being hidden for your own protection. You were being fortified, matured, and prepared for the calling on your name. And now, you're not bitter. You're better. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not angry. You're aligned. This shift you're feeling, it's not temporary. It's not a phase. It's a soul-level recalibration. You're stepping into the version of you that was always meant to emerge after the storm. You are now walking with the authority of someone who's been through fire and came out gold. You don't explain your glow, you embody it. You don't beg for room, you breathe, and the room rearranges. You don't scream to be seen, you whisper, and the world leans in. What's ahead of you is not ordinary, it's not logical, it's not going to fit into anyone's expectation of how it should happen. It's supernatural, it's unpredictable, it's divinely orchestrated. And that's exactly why the old version of you had to die, so the miracle could meet you in your truth, not your disguise. You're not chasing timelines anymore. You're not comparing journeys. You're no longer addicted to the idea of being further ahead. You trust the divine flow. You trust that what's yours will arrive. And in the meantime, you protect your peace, nourish your spirit, and honor your own rhythm. The people who left, they were meant to. Their absence created space for your expansion. The opportunities that passed, they weren't aligned with your frequency. Better ones are forming now, because your energy is magnetic, your vibe is rare, and your integrity cannot be fabricated. You've become a lighthouse, not chasing ships, but standing firm in your radiance so the right ones find you. That's elevation, that's evolution, that's divine reversal, where everything that tried to destroy you becomes the fuel for your greatest breakthrough. You're no longer afraid of the dark. You're the one carrying the torch now. You've become the very light you were once searching for. And now, others will find their way because you chose not to dim, not to quit, not to fold. That's the power you've unlocked. That's the energy that can't be faked. That's the fire that darkness failed to extinguish. You are the storm's regret. You are the silence's lesson. You are the comeback they never saw coming. And this is just the beginning. Everything around you is shifting, not because the world changed, but because you did. Your frequency is no longer resonating with lack, with fear, with self-abandonment. You've detached from those frequencies. You've risen above them. And now, Now your reality is rearranging itself to match your new vibration. This is the alignment they don't teach in books. This is the transformation you can't fake. The darkness didn't just fail to break you, it activated something within you. A deeper intuition, a sharper discernment, a sacred resilience that can't be explained to those who haven't walked through their own fire. You didn't just become stronger, you became spiritually precise. Now every step you take is intentional. Every no is powerful. Every yes is magnetic. You don't move by impulse anymore. You move by divine instruction. This is why things feel unfamiliar, because you're not just evolving, you're elevating. You're no longer circling old timelines. You're not revisiting pain for validation. You're not reopening doors that once closed on your soul. That old pattern of self-doubt, it has no access to this version of you. You've revoked its permission. Your healing isn't partial, it's foundational. Your presence now speaks before your mouth opens. You walk into a room and the air shifts. You've become a reminder of what survival looks like when it's paired with purpose. Not everyone will know how to handle your glow, and that's okay. You were not made to be understood by those who refuse to expand. You weren't made to shrink for comfort. You were born to rise in disruption. Let them feel uncomfortable around your boundaries. Let them misunderstand your peace. Let them project onto your stillness. That's not your concern anymore. You're not responsible for anyone's perception of your growth. Your job now is to stay aligned, to stay grounded, to protect your spirit the way you used to protect your insecurities. This elevation requires discipline, not in your grind, but in your energy. Who has access? What gets your attention? What are you watering? These questions matter now, because you've stepped into a level where not everything can go with you. People, habits, environments, they all get filtered through the new lens of your identity. That's not arrogance. That's energetic responsibility. You've finally realized your life is sacred. Your spirit is not for public consumption. Your peace is not up for negotiation. That kind of clarity scares those who benefited from your confusion. But you're not living for approval anymore. You're living for alignment. And in that alignment, you've become unstoppable. Everything you touch now has weight. Your silence, your words, your decisions. They all carry a signature of authority. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've finally accepted everything. Your journey, your shadows, your scars, they all have purpose. And now, they've become power. You're walking into rooms you once felt unworthy of. And not because you've changed the room, but because you've changed how you see yourself. That shift, that's the real miracle. When you stopped asking, "Am I enough?" and started declaring, "I am exactly what this moment needs." That's when the universe started responding differently. You've realized now that divine timing isn't just about receiving, it's about becoming. Becoming the version of you who can hold what's on the way. And because of that, what's coming won't overwhelm you. It will recognize you. It will match your new rhythm. It will feel familiar to your soul, even if it looks new to your eyes. You are no longer triggered by the noise. You've become fluent in stillness. You know when to move, when to rest, when to cut ties, when to open doors. That wisdom came at a cost, but it's yours now, and no one can take it from you. You're not easily swayed anymore. You're anchored. You're rooted in truth. Not the truth the world gave you, but the one that was buried inside you all along. The truth that says you are chosen. You are covered. You are unstoppable. Not because of what you have, but because of who you are. Your story isn't just survival, it's transformation, it's elevation, it's sacred disruption. And now you walk differently, you speak differently, you dream differently. Not because the world made room, but because you took up space. And that space, it was always yours. It just needed you to remember, to claim it, to embody it, to protect it. The energy you're walking with now, it's not ego, it's evidence. Evidence that you've healed, that you've grown, that you've evolved, that you've remembered your name. You don't need applause for that. You don't need validation. Your spirit already knows. You're not showing up to be seen. You're showing up because you are the vision, the answered prayer, the walking manifestation of endurance, divinity, and raw inner power. That's what this world needs right now. And that's exactly who you've become. There comes a point in your journey where you stop looking back, not because you forgot, but because you finally accepted that you've outgrown what was behind you. That place of pain, confusion, and emotional survival, it built you, but it no longer defines you. You've walked too far, healed too deeply, and grown too much to fit into the mold of your past. You don't operate from wounds anymore. You operate from wisdom. Every scar you carry now holds a lesson. Every heartbreak has become a teacher. Every rejection redirected you to this moment of alignment. And now, everything about you radiates truth. You don't just talk different, you vibrate differently. You don't just live, you lead. Not with ego, but with presence. Not with noise, but with authenticity. You've entered a season where you no longer ask for permission to exist in your fullness. You take up space, not out of arrogance, but because you finally believe you belong. You understand now that playing small helps no one. Dimming your light serves no purpose. Shrinking your energy to fit into fragile environments is no longer an option. You've been called to rise, and this time you're answering without hesitation. The world is watching you now, not because of status, but because of energy. Your resilience speaks, your discipline speaks, your glow speaks. People don't know how you did it, but they feel the shift. You've become the living example that it's possible to rebuild after destruction, to find peace after chaos, to rise after collapse. And here's the most beautiful part. You did it without becoming bitter. You didn't allow pain to turn you cruel. You didn't let betrayal harden your heart. You didn't allow the silence to make you desperate. You stayed soft where it mattered and strong where it was required. You didn't trade your essence for acceptance. You stayed rooted in soul. That is why the darkness failed. It underestimated your spirit. It didn't know that every loss would become fuel. It didn't expect your silence to be a strategy. It didn't expect your delay to be divine. It thought that isolating you would destroy you. But what it didn't know is that solitude would connect you with Source. That in your aloneness, you'd hear the call. That through your breaking, you'd find your blueprint. Now you don't just walk, you move with purpose. You don't just survive, you expand. You don't just react, you respond with wisdom. You've become untouchable, not because life stopped being hard, but because you've become unshakable in the face of it. You've built your life on alignment now, and no storm can move what's been rooted in truth. Every choice you make now sends a signal to the universe. You are no longer playing by the old rules. You are no longer reacting to old triggers. You are no longer circling old patterns. You've upgraded your system. You've elevated your expectations. You've created boundaries that protect your peace and amplify your purpose. This is not a comeback. This is a rebirth. And from this new place, everything changes. The way people respond to you, the opportunities that align, the doors that open effortlessly. You are no longer begging for breakthroughs. You are breathing in breakthroughs. You are no longer chasing anything. You are embodying everything. The more you show up as your true self, the more life bends to meet you. And now, you're not afraid of losing people anymore. You're not afraid of missing out. You're not afraid of failure. Because now, you trust divine timing more than forced outcomes. You trust your own growth more than temporary comfort. You trust that what's aligned will never require you to abandon yourself. You are done with pretending, done with people-pleasing, done with over-explaining. You now live in a realm of energetic truth, where your yes is sacred and your no is final, where your presence is an offering and your peace is a boundary. This is what real freedom feels like. You've reached the point where your past no longer triggers you. You can speak of it now without emotion, because it no longer holds power over you. You've transmuted your pain into power. You've turned your darkness into light. And now, you teach through your embodiment. You lead by simply being. You heal others just by existing in your truth. This is legacy. This is purpose. This is destiny unfolding. You are now the evidence that divine design cannot be interrupted by human attempts to destroy it, that no amount of delay can stop a soul that's determined to rise, that the weapon may form, but it won't prosper. You are the proof that the worst thing that ever happened to you became the very thing that launched your highest timeline. So move forward now, not with fear, but with faith, not with hesitation, but with sacred certainty. The path ahead is not just open, it's aligned, and you are not walking into it alone. You're walking with every lesson, every ancestor, every guide, and every version of you that refused to give up. This is your moment, not a peak, a beginning. You've finally stepped into the life that was waiting for the healed version of you to arrive. And now that you're here, everything shifts. Not someday, not soon. Now, because chosen one, that darkness was designed to break you. And it did not.